All right, this is a 2015 Ford Explorer EcoBoost. It was brought into us from recommended by another shop. They told them that it was leaking coolant into cylinder number three. So we had to check that out and verify that for ourselves, obviously. I checked it out, pulled cylinder three out, spark plug looked okay, cylinder looked okay, pressure tested it, couldn't get any coolant to leak into the cylinder. Put it back together, started it up, run smooth, didn't see any issues. Mm. And now I'm gonna tell you how I go about trying to figure out whether is this a misfire or is this something else when I'm driving it by the way it feels. So first of all, I'm gonna go into here and just look at it at idle and make sure this is all smooth. I mean, you can pretty much feel if it's smooth at idle. If you have a problem, it ran fine at idle. It was good. This is a power balance. This is a Ford specific type looking deal. Different scanners will look different. I believe the Snap-on scanners have like a weighted average on this, and they'll have like a line, and the more misfires that a certain cylinder has, the little graph will move down slower and slower or up if the cylinder is faster. So this is what the launch one looks like. This right here is not a misfire. This is just a gentle. This means this cylinder was a little bit slower than the other one right here. But this is generally okay, and typically, idle might not be super flat, but when you're driving and it's smooth, it's going to be a pretty straight line. If you're going to see a misfire, it's probably going to be down below this line here, or farther. So I drove it, didn't really get a lot of as you drive it, it's going to be sporadic and you're going to see the lines kind of jump down, especially if your RPM is too erratic. So you're trying to get nice smooth, put it in manual mode, go up a hill, leave it in sixth gear, kind of low in the RPM band, and just kind of climb, maybe from 1500 to 3000 or wherever you're comfortable driving it as far as speed goes and your road. And then just try and look to see if while you're doing that steady state increase of load? Is this, dropping below this point here or not? Is it constant on the same cylinder? Is it just kind of random? On this one, it wasn't. There was no constant cylinder, and the bumping didn't feel hard enough to be a misfire. Typically, when your torque converter is locked down, it's going to be like a manual car. When that misfire hits, it's going to be pretty. You're going to feel it. It's not going to feel soft. It'll feel like a cutout in the engine. Um, It didn't feel like a cutout in the engine. You felt the roughness and the bumping of it, but it wasn't like the engine was cutting back. So that's one indication, right, of what's going on right there. And to figure out what's going on, you're going to want to see if I can get this to go in big mode or not. I guess it won't. That's all right. So what I do is I'm going to go to transmission data logging. I'm going to look at the clutch pressure. I'm going to look at the actual slip and the desired slip. What you're going to look for here is when you slip drops to zero, is your actual slip moving around or not? You can see here that it wanted torque converter slip, and then the torque converter locked up, and it doesn't want it, and it's only calling for 20. You can see it smoothed out here, but here I got on some throttle, and you can see the actual slip started bumping around. You see all these jagged lines here. This is when you're feeling what they think is a misfire, where it's kind of had that rough running feeling, and you can see where the pressure jumped up a little bit to try and compensate for it, and it took a little while for it to actually. So here we got this is the runtime here in seconds. 7:45 around here. See, all the way up to 7:55 where it started to smooth out a little bit. Even the pressure increase here, and you can see as it misses slips, it tries to increase the pressure to control it, and it's still the torque converter is jumping. Let's go again, more pictures as I drive it, getting further down the timeline here. You can see it's torque converter slip, torque converter locks up, the actual slip comes down. You can see here, this flat line here is actually zero slip. Got the scales on the side. They're not matching exactly, unfortunately. So But you can see here, there's a lot of jumping around here. You can feel it when you first get it on. The kind of bumps, bump here, and it flats, and it feels nice and smooth. You can see the pressure is smooth. And then here, a little more throttle, and it starts bumping around a lot. You can see we're getting jumps here. That is up to 200. See this line here? This is 200. This line here is 300. So we're getting 200 plus torque RPMs of torque converter slip here. So that's a lot of jump back and forth. That's like if you were almost popping a clutch on a manual, and that RPM just keeps jumping up and down. And this is where your roughness is coming from, and this is what feels like a misfire. You can see here we're jumping up almost 300. Here's a bunch of jagged edges here. This is the torque converter slipping. This is where your rough feeling comes from. There's a big jump there, and it kind of levels out. You can see the pressure goes way up, and the pressure goes back down. This could be, I didn't have throttle on here. This could be me putting on the gas. It held here, and it increased the pressure and held. Pressure drops, give it a little more gas. Pressure only climbs up a little bit. You can see all these mountains here. These are big jumps in the torque converter, and this feels to most people like a misfire, but it's actually kind of soft. And when you feel it, it just feels like a rough running. Doesn't actually feel like the engine is cutting back. And that's one good thing to note. Does it feel like your car jerked backwards? Like it lost that little, every time it hits, is it losing power, or is it just kind of like a soft, like it's running rough? That's an indicator there of whether it's misfiring or whether the torque converter is slipping. And this here shows that the torque converter is slipping and it's not misfiring. Each one of these jagged edges, as it's only calling for, see we got, no, that's down here at the end. So see down here, this is 0 and 20. So when it's up, it only wants 20 slip, and its bottom is 0. You can see there, it's jumping. This, and that's the last one I got. This is where your misfire feeling comes from. This is not a misfire. This is a worn out torque converter clutch. You can use the little lube guard, red pills that we call them. They're about a couple ounces, like that. Maybe, can't remember how much they cost, 10, 20 bucks or something like that. And you can pop it in this transmission, and I guarantee you within the first drive, this quits. It's a temporary fix. Some of them last a little while. Some of them last a long time. Some of them don't. I think it kind of depends on how far this problem has gone and how far that transmission is wore out. Sometimes they will just do that if that's all the customer wants, or we'll do a transmission service, get nice fresh fluid in there. If it has a filter, we'll service the filter, and we'll put that pill in it. And that also can fix it. And if that doesn't fix it, the only way you're going to fix this is with a new torque converter. Your transmission is good, but the clutch and the torque converter is wore out. But this is not a misfire. I did not find any leak on number 3. I only found this. And when I ran it, I could not find any signs of a misfire on the power balance. So this right here is a torque converter problem, not a head gasket sealing problem. Hope this helps you diagnose whether you have a misfire or a torque converter shimmy. And this is not just Fords. This is any car with a torque converter that you feel is like this. I've seen it on Chevrolets. I've seen it on Fords. Maybe a Dodge or two. But you need to check the data and verify that you actually have a misfire, or if you just have a torque converter slip. Thanks for watching.